You've done everything right. Fresh bedding, clean water, quality hay, vet checks on schedule. Your horse is safe. And somewhere around midnight, they're wearing a groove in the floor of their stall, or cribbing the same rail they've cribbed 1,000 times, or standing with their head low in a way that doesn't quite read as rest. Most people call these habits, a few call them vices. The behavioral science has a different word for them, and a very different explanation for where they come from. Keeping a horse stabled is one of the most normal things in the equine world. It's also one of the least equine things we do to them. That gap is what this is about. If you've managed horses for any length of time, you know the tension already. Horses outdoors face real risk: weather, injury, parasites, the things you can't see coming. Stabling feels like control. It is control. The question is what that control costs, and whether most of us are actually accounting for it honestly. What shifts when you understand the mechanism is this: a lot of what looks like personality, quirk, or stubbornness in stabled horses is the nervous system responding exactly as nervous systems do when certain conditions have been absent for long enough. It's not behavioral malfunction, it's adaptation. And some of those adaptations are very hard to reverse. Here's the part that tends to surprise people. The behaviors we flag as problems, weaving, crib biting, box walking, repetitive pawing, aren't signs that something went wrong with the horse. They're signs the horse is coping competently. These are called stereotypies, and current research suggests they serve a genuine regulatory function, managing stress under conditions of chronic restriction. The horse found a solution. We just don't like looking at it. A study by Nicol in 1999, and substantial work building on it since, found that crib-biting horses showed lower cortisol responses to stressors than non-cribbers kept in the same environments. The behavior isn't the problem, it's evidence of the problem, and evidence that the horse is actively doing something about it. Which means that trying to stop the behavior, crib collars, anti-weave grills, punishment, without changing the underlying conditions, isn't management, it's removal of the coping mechanism while the source of stress stays in place. You've made the symptom invisible, the rest is still there. The foundational thing to understand about horses, and I realize this sounds almost too basic to say, but it actually changes a lot, is what they are physiologically: cursorial animals, built for continuous movement. Feral horses cover 15 to 30 miles a day, most of it not at any speed, just slow, ongoing movement while grazing. They spend 16 to 18 hours a day eating. Their gut is designed for near-constant intake of low-calorie roughage. Their hooves depend on movement to pump blood back up from the lower limb. The hoof functions as a vascular structure, not just a weight-bearing surface. Put that animal in a 12 by 12 stall for 22 hours, and you haven't just restricted their movement, you've removed the conditions their entire physiology was organized around. The stomach keeps producing acid whether the horse is moving and eating or not. Without forage to buffer it and movement to support motility, gastric ulcers become almost structurally inevitable. Research puts ulcer prevalence in stabled performance horses at somewhere between 60 and 90%, which is a wide range, partly because study methods vary, and partly because there's genuine individual variation. Leisure horses aren't exempt. Studies have found ulcers in close to 40% of non-competing stabled horses. We don't always catch it cleanly because horses are prey animals. They don't broadcast pain the way we might expect. They persist. There's a breakdown linked in the description: 50 horse behaviors that humans consistently misread, including several of the ones that look most like calm. A lot of what's in there connects directly to what we'll cover here. Then there's social isolation, which is harder to reduce to a number, but probably matters as much as any of the above. Horses didn't evolve to be alone. They evolved in fluid social groups with continuous proximity, mutual grooming, shared alert responses, the ambient presence of other animals nearby. Studies on isolation consistently show elevated cortisol, heightened startle responses, and impaired learning, and not just in the immediate term. Chronic social isolation appears to shift a horse's baseline state in ways that persist even after conditions improve. A horse stabled with limited access to other horses isn't just lonely in some soft, sentimental sense. Their nervous system is running a low-grade threat response almost continuously, because in the evolutionary context these animals came from, being alone usually meant something had gone very wrong. This might explain why some stabled horses become progressively more reactive over time, not because they were born that way, because their alert system has been running hot for months, sometimes years, and the baseline just moves. Worth saying clearly, though, not every stabled horse ends up like this. There's real individual variation: genetics, early experience, the quality of handling, how much turnout is possible, whether meaningful social contact is available at all. Some horses cope better with restriction than others. Most of the time, though, the behavioral picture in heavily stabled horses is not random. It follows a pattern, and the pattern is legible once you know what you're reading. So, what does this actually mean for how you manage a horse? The research is fairly consistent. More time at pasture, even imperfect pasture, reduces stereotypy frequency and severity, often substantially. Social contact matters independently of turnout. A horse that can see and touch another horse is measurably different behaviorally from one in visual isolation. Forage access is probably the single highest leverage variable most owners have direct control over. Horses with ad-lib hay or slow feeders that extend eating time show better outcomes across almost every behavioral metric that's been studied. The stomach doesn't care when you fed the horse. It only responds to whether there's something in it. Not everyone has land, not every situation has obvious flexibility in it, but most situations have more room than we're using. There's something that keeps surfacing in this research, something that's harder to name than ulcer rates or cortisol numbers. Horses have lived alongside humans for 5,000 or 6,000 years. We've bred them heavily for a certain kind of patience with our structures. They stand in stalls, they accept restriction. They don't make a drama of it, they just weave, or they stop weaving and go very quiet in a way you might mistake for settled. What the behavioral science keeps showing is that underneath that quiet, something is almost always happening. A horse in a restrictive environment is usually working at something, finding the available strategy. They adapt, they don't collapse, but they're not unbothered either. They're just quiet about it in the ways that we're selected for. The next time your horse is standing still in a stall, it's worth asking which kind of still that is.